Hello, welcome. How you doing today? Hope you're doing well. So, I guess if you want, you could add this to the 6 fan arts challenge. I was told about that, so I thought, I haven't done any fan art in quite a while. So, why don't I give that a shot? So, as you might have guessed by the title of this video, I decided to do the Hyperlight Drifter and the vessel from Hollow Knight. And I decided to not just do both of those in their own sort of art style, but to kind of cross-render them, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it, but sort of do the both of them in the Hollow Knight art style, kind of. It's more of my own touch on it, but leaning into that sort of art style that they are, with the more, I guess you'd call it chibi-esque form of the vessel, and then the more standard human proportions of the drifter. So, for the first art style, it was actually pretty easy because I had just finished, got the first ending to Hollow Knight. My brother, he's the one that got me into playing Hollow Knight. He said there's a couple more endings, so I'm probably going to have to go back and finish that game a couple more times. So I kind of did the vessel in his art style, or thereabout, pretty much from memory. And then the drifter, I made him in the vessel's art style with the help of some references. I had a picture of the drifter for reference just because he's more detailed. So I wanted to make sure that I got some of the details right. But overall, it was easier to do that because it's sort of a simplification and abstraction of the design, and just kind of making him sort of more kind of cute, I guess, with the big eyes. They both have big black eyes. And I put them in sort of a standard pose you usually see the vessel in. So now I'm going to start drawing the more human proportioned versions of the characters. And I started with the drifter in one of the poses that you see from the intro cutscene, when he's looking up at the giants, I guess. And he's clutching the crystal on his chest. I'm not quite sure what exactly it is that attracts me the most to Hyperlight Drifter, but it's become one of my favorite video games. And Hollow Knight is just a masterpiece of subtle storytelling. So for the drifter art style, I didn't really stick to the exact art style of the game, but it's sort of in my art style, taking cues from the game. One of the things I hate drawing most is hands, so you'll have to forgive the crude hand. Now, in the reference image I had, he doesn't have a belt, but I recall seeing in some of the artwork he has a belt and also some sort of pattern on his sash, battle skirt. I don't know what you'd call that thing. One of these days I'll get around to making my costume of the drifter. It's a really neat sword. I couldn't quite remember if the tip curved or if it was, you know, sort of like I ended up drawing it here. I think Hyperlight Drifters had some inspiration on a lot of my art style that I do anyway. So it was fun to draw this character. It took a lot longer than the little chibi versions, obviously. Oops. Whenever you see the entire background flash the color, that means that I did not finish one of the lines, because what I do here, if you pay attention closely, I know it goes quickly, but if you look closely, I actually duplicate the layer with the lines, put it under the layer that I drew the lines on originally, and then use the paint bucket tool to fill in large areas quickly. That's when I'm just doing a speed paint like this. If I were taking longer, then I might draw it in with, you know, individual brush strokes. Speaking of brushes, I use I believe it's called the Ultimate Inking tool on the Hollow Knight versions of the characters, because I wanted to get more of that crisp, clean line look that they have in the game. And then on the Hyperlight Drifter versions of the characters, I use I think it's called Classic Cartoonist brush, to get that more jagged and rough looking, you know, almost sketch-like quality to it that I use in a lot of my work. And it kind of looks a little, it gives it that kind of jagged edge look that the pixel art has. For the glow on the sword, what I did was have another layer on top and then make it transparent and just make it a lighter color than the sword itself, and then give it sort of like a white line in the middle to kind of be, you know, almost like a lightsaber, because, you know, basically that's what he's got, is a cool shaped lightsaber. Now I start on the vessel, the anthropomorphized, well, not anthropomorphized, but the the Hyperlight Drifter version of the vessel. When I first drew the head, I thought, that's a dumb look when I was drawing it, but then after I added the second horn, I thought, you know, that'll actually work. Now the Drifter has that green emerald diamond thing that clasps his cape, so I wanted to add that to the vessel, and I thought I could add in the mask heart container things that show how much life you have in the game, and then I figured he'd probably have mittens for hands or something. For the armor that I added, I kind of made it segmented like an insect, taking inspiration from some of the more detailed characters in the Hollow Knight game. And for his feet, I wanted to kind of remember the, you know, the little nubs he has for feet in his original art. So I I kept his feet really tiny. But I really enjoyed making this sort of samurai human-shaped version of the vessel. I think it turned out pretty good. For the shading, normally what I do is another layer, kind of like how I add the glow, but with a darker line and then make it a little transparent. But for these guys, I decided to do more of kind of painting on top of another layer of just a darker shade of whatever I was painting on top of. For his nail, I've always seen these lines on the nail he has, so I kind of made them like almost relief carvings and then kind of shiny, and then my brother said, "Oh yeah, that's an actual weapon you can get in the game," and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, cool. I haven't gotten that far yet, but sure." So, I hope you've enjoyed this speed paint. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see more things like this. I kind of enjoyed doing this and getting back to fan art for once. I started out really kind of, drawing fan art, but now I've been doing more original stuff, so this was a fun little diversion. So, hope you all have a good day. I'll see you in the next video.